Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carmine Sabia for Explain America. And Democrats, it appears to me, just never let a tragedy go to waste. They always have a way to make it worse and to do things with it politically that they should not do. That was the case again after the Lewiston massacre. Before we get started, I want to ask you to please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Those little things really help us out, and they help our channel continue to grow. What happened in Lewiston, Maine was a tragedy. I have a cousin who lives right there, like right there, and lives in the same town as the shooter. And it's terrifying, it's frightening, and it's tragic. And our thoughts and our prayers should be with the victims and their families. But this morning, not even 24 hours removed from the shooting, Democrat Senator Chris Coons, he had other things on his mind. Let's take a look.
Tirelessly on the issue of gun violence, Chris Coons. Let me ask you, Senator, a question that Phil just asked Representative Dusty Johnson, and that is this just what Americans are going to have to accept, that could happen to them any day?
Poppy, I certainly hope not. President Biden signed into law last year the biggest progress we've made forward on closing loopholes in the gun background check system and investing tens of billions of dollars more in community mental health. But yesterday, we took a vote on the floor of the Senate on relaxing the standards for access to guns for veterans who have been adjudicated mentally ill. Actually, I may be wrong. That may be a vote coming up today. We do have a country that is sharply divided in terms of our understanding on the limits on gun rights. It was one of President Biden's big accomplishments, along with a bipartisan group here in the Senate last year, that we moved forward on closing background check loopholes and improving gun safety. But there is so much more to do. No other advanced industrialized country has this challenge, where day after day after day there are mass shootings all over our country. All of us should reflect on our willingness to commit ourselves to the safety of our children, our schools, our communities. If you can't go to a bowling alley or a movie theater, a synagogue or a church without having to worry about an armed assault, then frankly, we are not protecting our own people in the ways that we should.
Senator, just to kind of put a finer point on this, to Poppy's question, in the wake of the bipartisan gun law, which I think was, as you noted, the most significant in decades, every Republican who co-sponsored that bill with you, almost to a co-sponsor, not all of them, said there's no appetite for anything else. Period. End of story. Guys you work with, folks that you think highly of, there's no path here for anything else, is there?
There isn't, Phil, and that's maddening to those of us here who think there is more for us to do. And frankly, after several weeks of chaos, the House has finally settled on a new speaker who I look forward to getting to know, but who by press accounts and from what I've been able to find online about his record is far more conservative than any recent speaker. That makes me even more concerned that we will genuinely struggle to make progress on improving gun safety for our country, for our families, for our children.
You say no appetite for any more gun violence prevention laws specifically, and you're right, Speaker Johnson did vote against that bipartisan bill last year that you mentioned. But what about just mental health? Because this man spent 2 weeks this summer in a mental health facility. Do you think there's any appetite just writ large for more mental health aid if you don't connect it to guns?
Well, and it's important, Poppy, for us to distinguish between these two fields because there are millions and millions of Americans with mental health needs that are underfunded, where they have difficulty accessing services that have no connection whatsoever to gun violence. But in this particular instance, that clearly, that seems to, from press accounts, have been the causal factor. That's why I highlight the amendment by Senator Kennedy that's part of the mix of amendments we are going to have to vote on before we move forward on our appropriations bill. It explicitly reduces the restrictions on veterans who've been adjudicated mentally ill from being able to access guns. For decades, that's been in place. If a court rules that you are too much of a danger to yourself and others to have access to guns, That strikes me as a pretty good predictor that you should not be involved in gun ownership or gun purchases, yet there is a significant group of Republicans here in the Senate trying to roll that back. That would be the biggest reduction in gun safety, the biggest reduction from folks who are on the background check list in decades. So it's alarming that we have such a deep division between our parties in the intersection of gun safety and mental health. And I think it is a bad predictor of our political direction soon. Some of the hardest meetings I've ever been in at home in Delaware was with the parents of young children who in their first year of school had to do active shooter drills, something we did not grow up with, something that now is a daily reminder to school children that their communities, their parents, their national leadership is not doing enough to keep them safe.
Senator Chris Coons, we appreciate your time as always, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
To jump on the tragedy right after it happens is typical for most Democrats. They can't seem to help themselves. They can't seem to stop themselves from jumping on these shooting tragedies to push their agenda. We don't know if there's any laws that exist that would have stopped this guy from getting a gun. And if there are, why didn't they? Would he have met any of the requirements? It sounds like it so far. So then why were his guns not taken away? Why are the laws on the books not working, Mr. Coons? You want more laws just so they can be ignored too? No, there is a failure here. And that's what we have to get to the bottom of. But right now, let the families mourn. Have some common decency. I want to know what you guys think about this. Please let me know in the comments. Are you as furious as me? Let me know. Also, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. It does really help us out. I'm Carmine Sabia. This is Explain America. We love you guys. God bless you. Take care, everybody.